Today we're talking about technique, how to get your right and left hands firing, speaking the same language, synced up. Technique means different things to everybody, all right? Some people it's Yngwie, some people it's Roy Clark, but regardless of your style and genre, I'm going to share some tips I think are going to really help you out. Here we go. Well, hey everybody, Shane Terrio back at you. Thank you for joining me. A little brief hiatus. I'm back. I was in New Orleans in my old stomping grounds doing some gigs, and we had a lot of fun, and did a couple solo gigs and a gig with Ricky Lee Jones. And thanks to those of you that came to the gigs and came up to me and said hello, and you watched the channel. That was cool. All right, today I'm going to talk about something I get asked about a lot, and it's how do I get my right hand? How do I play faster? But more specifically, how are you holding your pick? You know, we're talking about right hand stuff, or if you're a left hand player, your picking hand. How to get that firing on all cylinders, all right? And I'm going to share a couple of tips with you on this that I know are going to help you regardless of your style. So first thing is, if you're playing through an amp, cut the reverb off, all right? Completely dry. Now you might go, well, that's my sound, Shane. Well, you can have your sound back later. This is a way to really, you can't hide behind anything. It's easier to play with some reverb or some delay, or even easier to play with some overdrive and distortion, that compression. But when you have an amp that is just bone dry, it's completely naked, and it reveals all your technique, good and bad. That's a tip. You should practice a lot with no reverb. And it's kind of like, you know, remember those ankle weights people used to wear, and you'd walk around all day with them, and then you take them off and it feels like, wow, I feel like I could run 100 miles an hour. It's going to be that way with the reverb, or as Robin Ford calls it, reverb. So ask yourself first, what are you trying to accomplish as a player? Your personal style, your preferences, and what technique needs do you have? I mean, what are you required? For instance, if you're primarily a blues player, blues, a lot of that phrasing, the traditional kind of way anyway, is a lot of left hand pull off, hammer on. A lot of left slurs, slides. So you're not using, it's a little bit of both with the right hand. If you're trying to play more rock, like, heavy picking kind of stuff, or even bebop, those guys picked every note to keep it period correct. So I already shared first tip, practice no reverb. Second tip, a lot of the problems we have as guitar players when things get out of sync, it's the hands out of sync. You hear drummers talk about this all the time, but guitar players don't talk about it. Drummers are practicing out of rudiment books, and they go, man, you got great hands. I got to get my hands together. Practice on pads. I know you've seen it. It should be no different for us. We need to sync our hands up together. To me, in my opinion, the left hand can move a lot faster than the right hand. And to get them to coordinate and fire on the same, wavelength, that's what this is about. So the way you do that is a couple of things. First thing is you want to practice really slow. Now, I know that's not what you want to hear, and it's boring. I know, but it really works. And I talked about this in another video ways back when a few months ago, how at one point I was doing a lot of recording, and I was doing all those Daryl's House shows and some gigs, and my technique just went, for some reason, went out the window. I couldn't play with speed anymore. It was weird. I tried to hold my pick a different way, and I think I messed everything up. So I went to a teacher in New York, and he had me start over from zero. Now, I was working guitar player, but he basically said, play a major scale, 3 notes per string in A. So I said, okay, yeah. And he goes, no, slow. Okay. No, I mean really slow. And he kept doing this about 5 times until we were at this tempo. Now you may say, Shane, this is crazy, but wait, don't turn the video off. He was exactly right. And what happens is, this is all muscle memory. That's what this whole thing is about. And when you slow it down to that tempo with no reverb, and you practice that way, every note cleanly, you are going to teach your hands and your muscle memory to work together. And I'm telling you, it works like a charm. You got to practice it for a few weeks. And you can't just try to speed up too quick. Do it really slow, almost painfully slow. And realize that you are syncing up your hands. That's how that whole process works. So practice slow, okay? Okay, tip number 2. You want to eliminate wasted motion. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, if you watch some guys play, and this is applicable to rhythm guitar too, the right hand is all over the place, okay? It's just like a lot of wasted motion. And I think it was Al Di Meola that I read an interview with him years ago where he talked about keeping your hand tight. Now, I'm not saying tense up. It's just keeping it so where you're not using any unnecessary motion. You're using only the motion you need to execute the note cleanly. So you see how my hand, I'm not tensing up, but it's not all over the place. And that allows me to play passages to play them fairly clean. That wasn't that clean, but that is because I'm not all over the place, all right? Tip number 3. Are we at 3? I don't know. Here's another thing that I've heard people talk about, and it is a thing for sure. Pick slant, where you slant the pick. Now, I don't know if you can see this. I tend to pick, I hold the pick this way, like a regular, I'm using Fender heavy pick. I've always used that, or medium sometimes. And I tilt the pick down a little bit sometimes. And I don't know why that is. It's kind of like the analogy I like to use as a pool cue. If you shoot pool, if you just move that cue just ever so slightly, it changes the whole deal. Your whole game will change. And it's like this. A little change, big difference. So I don't hit the string completely flat on. I'm at an angle that way. And I think George Benson, don't quote me on this, I know some guys pick the opposite. They hold the pick kind of backwards. I think Neil Sean plays that one. Guys like Howard Roberts, Eric Johnson, I think Eric Johnson got it from Howard Roberts. They pick kind of almost circularly. But that is using the side of the pick. Michael Landau holds the pick like this a lot of times. That's more for a tone thing. That changes the tone. See that? It makes it warmer. There's all kinds of things you can do with the pick. But getting back to technique. Now, sometimes when I'm playing like fast rock stuff, my fingers will fan out that way. I don't know why that is. It's the slant and the fan. Sometimes when I'm playing rhythm guitar, I generally use my pinky as sort of a floating anchor. It's just brushing against the top of the guitar. And that keeps everything in line, so I'm not wasting a lot of motion. I will say, since we're talking about picking, that I do have 2 excellent products available should you want to check it out. A lot of you guys have already done it. I have Monster Picking Part 1 and 2, and it has all these etudes that I wrote that I personally use myself to warm up and build my picking technique, and they're available. I'll put a link if you want to check it out. There you go. Little shameless self-promotion. One of the things I like to practice, though, like if I'm warming up, is the guitar solo from Bark at the Moon, Jakey Lee. And that second half of that solo is really difficult and very challenging, and it's all picking. And you can see how my hand kind of fans out when I tilt my pick a little bit to pull that off. So if we just isolate a little scale like this, C major scale, 5th fret, 7th fret, 3rd string, E, F, G, 2nd string, 5th, 6th, 8th, A, B, C, 5th, 7th, 8th on the top string, and just try that. Try all those things. Slant, slow, gradually. What happens if you try to practice too fast and I've almost got it. No, you don't have it. And what you're doing is you're teaching your hands to play those mistakes, and it's like an engine that's firing out of whack. You got to slow it down. Trust me, that is really the secret to playing clean and playing fast. So for me, technique just means, what do I need to pull this job off? What do I need? One day it was with the OJs on Daryl's house, and it was to play that little scale passage clean. All right, that's all the technique I needed that day. Everything else was very simple, but it's there if you need it. Another day was taping with Robert Fripp, and those patterns he had me play were way more difficult than playing something fast like 3 notes per string. These were like real angular. I haven't played that since then. So your right hand is doing double the amount of work. And string skipping, your adjacent strings. So just, technique is different for everybody, but I think you can benefit from those little tips. All right. I hope you got something out of this, and, give me a like, subscribe, help me build the channel. I'll see you soon. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you have any questions, Terrio out.